Hello everybody. So today I'm going to talk about making weight loss easier. Let's get the hello, let some people as soon as anybody sticks around. Jeez. Okay, so today we're going to talk about making weight loss easier. If you want to watch the replay, you can watch it on my Facebook group or at the YouTube channel, both linked in my bio. And if you'd like more from me, you can join my weight loss course at patreon.com. We have a bunch of other ways for you to get coaching from me, including one-to-one coaching. So first off, I just posted a video and I'm going to talk about that, okay? So the video was called a 1-minute exercise that causes weight loss. Having a little bit of fun there, but this was really something that I did that helped me lose a ton of weight, okay? So I forget what the name of the book was called, but something I read about in 2009. And it really shifted my thinking about weight loss that actually helped me lose 100 pounds before I regained it all, plus another 100 pounds. But it was still really good advice, and it came into play, especially when I wanted to lose weight again. So here's what I did. Can everyone hear me okay? Can everyone hear me? Is the sound working? Is this why I know? Okay. It's like nobody was joining the live chat, so I'm like, what the heck? Okay, thanks a lot. All right, stick around. This is going to be good. So, who has ever said this to themselves? I should weigh less, right? We're trying to guide ourselves toward better things, right? We're trying to push ourselves in the right direction, okay? Does this sound like negative self-talk? Not necessarily. I mean, it could seems almost like a statement of fact, right? But here's why this statement gets us into trouble, okay? Your brain, okay? So here's your brain. Got all these little wrinkles in it, okay? Eyeballs, nose, mouth, okay? So that's a brain. That's the scariest drawing of a brain I've ever seen. This looks like a Simpsons character went through a wood chipper. All right. So your brain, okay? It's seeing, these are the things that you did, right? Your brain is just processing data, okay? Data. And it's not making any meaningful, yeah, thanks. It's making, hey, seriously awkward, I've seen you in my notifications lately. It's not making any judgment. Your brain is going, okay, we did these things, and then the scale read, and then we're telling the brain, no, this should be, this is what it should be. So the brain goes, okay, so if I do this stuff, you're telling me to override my natural inclination, which would be these inputs resulted in this. And your brain would make an association between I do this, I get this, okay? So all of a sudden, through this sort of self-talk, I should weigh less, right? I shouldn't weigh 425. Ugh, I shouldn't weigh this, right? This way of talking slowly erodes the brain's ability to do one of its primary, most simplistic functions, which is associate inputs with outputs to then deliver some sort of meaningful data, more meaningful data that we could use as a sentient being to advance our survival. If you have any questions, ask them in the Q&A, and I'll open up the Q&A at the end. So stick around if you'd like answers to these questions. Now, another thing that this does, okay, is okay, now this is actually Strong Sad from, you guys remember Strong Bad, the Homestar Runner character from like 20 years ago? Okay. So here's us, here's reality. Okay. We're Strong Sad, and we're saying we should be here. Right? Sipping a Mai Tai, looking good. We got our sun hat, right? And then we've got cut washboard abs, right? Abs for days. This is what should be happening. Okay? Yeah, Trogdor. I thought you were drawing me. I thought I was drawing myself. Right? Remember there was actually a Strong Bad episode where he draws abs? The Abber 2000. Yes, Strong Bad invented this. The Abber 2000. And so when we say this is what we should be, right? It seems helpful because we're trying to say, hey, brain, hey, self, let's go this way, right? Does that sound like negative self-talk? No. It doesn't sound bad at all. And this is why we get stuck doing it all the time. We're trying to say, I want to go from here to here. Desire. We're trying to communicate a desire to ourself, hoping what? What are we hoping for? We're hoping that this could become this. Maybe peripherally, we might recognize that this would involve a change in our habits, but what do we do if we even recognize that we would need to change something to get this? Okay? I really hope you guys are sticking with me. This is gonna change the way you think about weight loss forever. Don't go anywhere. Okay? So because we have a desire to change our current situation, we start first off comparing reality to an imagined, the way it should be. Basically a utopia, right? I'm not using this term with any judgment, right? A utopia is the way it should be, what we should all be working toward, right? You could say the more that your brain, the more that you tell your brain, hey, let's go toward this imagined world, the more maybe you spend time here. The more you base your worth on this imagined world. The more you say, I'm working for this. Okay? Are you tracking? We start building up this imagined world, right? We find that picture of when we were really hot, when we were 22, and we put it up on the fridge, right? We get this, becomes a bit more significant, right? We watch YouTube videos about people lifting weights, right? We say, I'm trying to get psyched up to go to the gym, right? We're engaging in a fantasy where we are living out vicariously through people on YouTube, right? Or whatever it is you watch, okay? We don't look in the mirror so much. We get on YouTube when we feel gross, right? And what starts to happen? Can anybody tell me what starts to happen to the state of your mind? It becomes fixated on this happy place rather than on what's actually happening. Okay? Now, and this all happens with this thought, I should weigh less, okay? Now, none of this is anyone's fault, because how does society teach us to better ourselves? Doing all this stuff, okay? So, you following? It's just getting good. I'm gonna take your little melons and crack them over my knee, and we're gonna actually think. Sorry, getting a little fired up. Speaking of which, I gotta sit in my cold brew. All right, homemade cold brew. You can find that recipe on my page. So, our brain starts to associate to move. There's my brain again. Brain. I gotta actually write brain so that you know what that drawing is. That's how good my drawing skills are. Okay. So our brain starts to shift from now to later, or now to the idealized past. Okay. Right? When cultures are going through a hard time, they become susceptible to demagogues who try to convince them that, hey, follow me, and I will resurrect this ideal past, right? I'll bring back that summer when you were 22 and you were super smoking hot, right? This is what they're doing. And it takes you out of the now and into the past, right? The idealized past. So your brain is slowly shifting away from now to later, past. As we mentioned before, it's shifting from reality as well to our idealized state. Right? Later, idealized, past. But we could also say we start looking to live vicariously through others, to project ourselves onto other people who have our idealized future now. And we start to try to have it now by projecting ourselves onto them, okay? So, motivation so often is the dad living vicariously through his son and saying, Jimmy, you're gonna go play football, right? And the dad gets a little too into it because, when Jimmy gets that tackle, all of a sudden dad can go home and, perform his husbandly duties for the first time in weeks, right? We all, man, I put the little extra salt in the cold brew today. So the motivation is vicarious. And like the dad, the football dad, right? I'm not speaking from personal experience at all here. The football dad living vicariously through his son, would we say that is a reality-based way of perceiving the world or a delusion-based, right? It's often codependent. Well, not codependent. That's a loaded term that people, let's just say it's dependent on other factors. Because now, dad needs Jimmy to score the touchdown. So, need, right? We start saying, well, I have to. If you're on YouTube and you're making these shifts, right? What are you saying you need to do? You need to get maybe self-control, right? Control. Right? Just like dad has to control Jimmy to keep up this very dependent delusion of motivation or vicarious living, the things we project onto people who have our idealized future. And it all started with I should, right? And maybe for that dad, it started with I shouldn't be so old and lame, okay? I'm not saying old people are lame. I'm just saying these dads who live vicariously through their kids in sports, it doesn't happen because they feel super awesome about themselves. And I have total sympathy for it, honestly. I get it. It's human nature, exactly. So all of a sudden, we go from the horrifying reality that we are getting a little hefty, and our brain is so motivated to create change that it does all this for us just because we asked it to. Why? We go back to the beginning when I drew that picture of the brain looking at all the inputs of the things we're doing and seeing the outcome on the scale, seeing things in the mirror, but then respecting our override, right? The brain understands sometimes that it doesn't always interpret data the right way. So our prefrontal cortex has an executive function, right? Executive, as in the boss, that can override what the brain is processing, right? It's like going to your boss and saying, hey, I crunched the numbers and here's the report. And the boss going, you know what? Factually, these numbers are all correct. Your math is all correct, but you're missing a piece of context that changes the way we would interpret this data. And so the brain goes, I see. Okay, thank you, executive function. I'm going to change my analysis based on your input. So when you tell yourself, I should weigh less, when you get on the scale and see 420 and go, I should weigh 220, right? You're overriding your brain's ability to connect inputs with outputs. And you're saying the inputs we're doing day in and day out should be creating a different outcome. And because that is based in judgment, not like judgment in the sense of, that's a judgment call. It's a subjective call, I mean. Because that's subjective and not based in an observable reality, this is why the brain starts to shift toward the not so observable, which is usually living inside of our imaginations. Now, here's where it gets really wild. Would anyone agree with me that people who have a severe weight problem could possibly be suffering ultimately not from a medical issue that's forcing them to be overweight or a character issue that proves how deeply flawed and bad these people are? What if the core issue is not in how they were taught to eat as a kid, or the fact that the stores have processed food, or that sugar exists, or that carbs exist, or that we eventually, by being so heavy, wreak some havoc on our health? What if the core cause of our overeating, of our having to react to every emotion with some kind of cigarette or food or candy or just so we can deal with all these things, what if it originates in our thinking, in other thought patterns that no one taught us to examine? My hair's on upside down. Yeah. That's a new filter TikTok came out with. Okay, so what I'm trying to get across here is that this error in thinking, this delusion that we slip into after we get overweight, might also be the delusion that created the context for us to ever gain all that weight to begin with. Why? Because the brain is going from reality to living in things that are not based in reality. And I don't mean to say, I'm not one of these guys, if you've been watching me at all, I'm not one of these guys who's like, suck it up, cupcake, you gotta look at reality, right? That stuff I think misses the point. I'm talking about reality in the sense of everyone look around you, right? Stop looking at me for a second. Look around you in your room and name 5 things that you see, okay? Dumbass cat, Nintendo Switch, Kleenex box, ottoman, brand new microphone that I have to figure out how to use with my phone. Okay, I just grounded myself in my physical space, the things that are actually here, okay? The things that I could observe with my 5 senses. Yes, we are talking about mindfulness, yes. So what else are you susceptible to if your brain doesn't like reality or isn't able to stick to reality? We're able to fall into delusion, not just that, we can project ourselves onto Chris Bumstead when he's, Mr. Olympia, when he's working out on YouTube. Something I never do. We can fall into other kinds of delusions. Like, I'm not safe. No one loves me. I have to be perfect. Somebody throw some out for me. Yeah, dissociation. Seriously awkward. Thank you. This is how dissociation starts, right? It's fundamentally dissociating ourselves from our experience of our senses. Not that experiencing our senses is all that there is to being a human. Body dysmorphia. Weight loss Easter. What is weight loss Easter? Okay, so I'm not safe. No one loves me. I have to be 100%. I'm talking about false beliefs. The stuff that when you break us all down, okay? Forget if every single person in this chat was at their goal weight and they'd go to the doctor and the doctor would be like, you're healthy as a horse. Great. And we're still walking around with this stuff, we would be offloading it in some other way. Guess what? A lot of the people you see walking around at a healthy weight, they're doing the same things on the inside. Genetically, maybe they don't respond to overeating the same way you and I do, or maybe they just simply found a different way of offloading these delusions, of trying to counteract them through their behavior. Maybe they're overworking, right? Maybe they're the person who is skinny because they have believed their entire life that if they are not skinny, they will die. And it's actually the depth of this negative belief that has kept them healthy, okay? The difference between you and me is that we had a different negative belief overriding this one, okay? We had a negative belief maybe saying that we're not safe unless we're eating, right? And safety is gonna override vanity, right? Safety is gonna override, or can, how good we look, right? It all depends on what happened when you were a child, what screwed you up, right? Here's a child in a sense of safety, okay? And then we take this child's world and we rupture it, okay? Every rupture for every child is gonna look a little bit different, but that scar tissue that's gonna heal, that survival mechanism is going to respond in some way to what was taken from that child. So this is why we all develop our survival mechanisms in different ways. It starts out as a real recognition that I'm not safe. Holy cow, dad just came home drunk. And I'm 6 years old and I'm seeing things that I never thought my dad could be capable of, right? My worldview just got shaken. And so now I need to find something to give me a sense of comfort that doesn't rely on dad, right? This is a kid going through the reverse process of the dad trying to live vicariously through the kid. So once their innocence gets taken, in one way or another, that happens to everybody, right? they try to repair that through some kind of compensation. It can be becoming the class clown, becoming the family comedian. It can become good things, right? I mean, do you think that my ability to synthesize information was an accident? No. I grew up raised by fucking wolves. And one of the only ways I could fend for myself was to use my intellect. So it actually took my intellectual capacity and made it like a crutch that I had to build up and rely on. And if I stopped doing that for 1 second, I would be convinced that I wasn't safe. So I always gravitated towards academic situations because they felt safe to me, right? But if we keep going to one kind of safety over and over and over again, what we start to do when we're kids, right, our world is very small. And as we mature, it's able to widen and grow. And what happens when we go from reality to delusion is to protect ourselves, we have to start to bring the walls back in until eventually we create a prison for ourselves. Scanape, thank you. Yeah, bullying. Biscuits were your friends. I assume you're British, so that you probably don't mean like buttermilk biscuits, unless you're from like Missouri. Yeah, cookies. You get home, if you're anything like me, I got the shit bullied out of me every single day for, it started in like first grade and didn't end all the way through high school, okay? You come home, and what do kids have at their disposal? Food, TV, right? These things, maybe if the big trauma happens when you're a teenager, maybe you have access to drugs, right? I think a lot of people who have like a good, maybe initial childhood, I'm not going to speculate. It can happen so many different ways. But the point is why so many of us have deep-rooted issues that we don't know how to get to is because they happened before our brains formed. So we didn't have that executive function able to watch this all happen in real time, right? Like I could go through a divorce right now and I can watch it happening, right? With even a minor amount of self-awareness. Why? Because I'm in my 30s, right? My brain has developed to be able to do that. Kids cannot watch their own development. So they're literally just at the mercy of everything around them. So because they can't see that development, they can't see the survival mechanism forming. So when this kid becomes a fully fledged human being at 18 or whatever, not human being, but adult, these negative beliefs are baked into who they are. Their persona, right? At 18, we all have a persona that is a response to the trauma, right? At some level, your personality starts to form around not just who you really are, but how you think you can best get love and safety and attention. Attention isn't a bad thing. We all need to be seen. Imagine, think about it. You're the baby and you need your mom to make eye contact with you so that you know you're being taken care of, right? If your mom didn't make a lot of eye contact with you, forget hugs, right? Just eye contact. If you couldn't make a little noise and get your mom's attention, that alone could be a reason why you have a hard time building intimacy today, right? So how do we undo these needs as an adult? Thank you, Mr. Schneiderman. That's a great question, okay? Because it just perfectly shows that our instinct, when we do become aware of this stuff, is to try to erase it, okay? We got to get rid of this side of the board. Okay, that's our instinct. And does that actually help? Much like how I started with the thought of, I get on the scale and I'm 425 pounds and I go, I shouldn't weigh this much, which seems like a factual statement. It actually sends us down this path even more. Okay, thinking that we need to get rid of these beliefs is actually something that ends up reinforcing them. Why? Because it reinforces the idea that we are not safe and we are not loved until we get rid of these beliefs, right? And that's the big mega version of I'm not safe, I'm not loved until I get the weight off. Okay? And this is why, fast forward, your weight loss will become 9,000,000% easier when you realize that you are enough now, that you are loved now, that you deserve all good things now. And you're just a human who's carrying a bit extra adipose tissue because you ate more than the energy you were expending for a few years. And if you were to expend more energy than you took in for a few years, that equation could balance out in the other direction. And you're able to actually look at the health situation in an objective way. Why? Because your worth isn't hinging on your assessment, let alone the outcome. So, what do we do? I love this. I'm so happy with this because this one just slipped nice and easy out of weight loss, which I'm on TikTok. Okay, I am a freaking sapper. I'm burrowing under TikTok, pretending I'm here to help people lose weight, which of course I am. But really, what I'm trying to do is help people get their heads around this stuff. Actually, I mean, forget getting your head around it. You don't need to get your head around it. But I wouldn't be alive if I hadn't learned this stuff, and I really think that this is going to change people's lives. So it's not like I invented it, but you know. So we go from I should. Oh, sorry. I should weigh less. And back to Mr. Snyderman, this is how we deal with false beliefs. Right? We don't try to erase them. How do we deal with bad emotions? We don't try to get rid of the bad emotion. How do we deal with pain? We don't try to get rid of the pain. The first step of all of this stuff, of healing, of wholeness, the first step in this journey is beginning to understand that every single reaction you have to what's going on inside of you is wrong. It's not necessary. The reactions to whatever happens around us, that's that persona that was developed in response to a context of helplessness, imagined or real. Okay? That's the part of ourselves that we're trying to let go of. And that's why massive weight loss is passive. It's loss. You literally can lose the emotional weight, which on a cognitive context is losing these pathways, these neural pathways that keep us stuck in these ways of thinking and living. So, I should weigh less. Is this a statement of fact? That's all we have to ask ourselves. Let's try this. And this is why, you guys are getting the hour-long version, but this TikTok video I just released is like 49 seconds long, and I'm hoping that people will see that it's powerful, but this is basically what the TikTok was about. I should weigh 425 because, and I'm gonna write down the things that I wrote down when I first did this exercise for the first time. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A. I don't see any questions in the Q&A because I can't see what's scrolling. I should weigh 425 because I eat too much. Because I don't exercise. Because I eat I eat junk. I eat foods that are not nutritious. Okay? Now I've made a statement of fact. I should weigh 425 because I've been doing the things I've been doing. This seems like the most simple statement. And you're thinking, John, what moron doesn't know this? All of us. Everyone, you cannot get to 425 without somehow obscuring this from the most present part of your mind where you like to live. And by really sitting with this and really embracing reality, what we're saying is teaching the brain, okay, here's the input and here's the output. And instead of sending the brain on some wild goose chase of delusion, we begin simplifying our thinking. And if our brain can go, here's an input, here's an output, now all of a sudden, what can your subconscious mind do? Your subconscious mind can start making better decisions for you. This is why I don't crave a lot of the things I used to crave. Why? Because my brain figured out, wait a second, we don't need that stuff, and it doesn't always taste that good. And it's really more of like an assault of sugar or fat or something. And it's not so much that we need it in the deepest core of who we are. It's more just like it's like a slap in the face of like something to feel, so that I don't have to concentrate on what else is going on inside of me that is troubling me. And so once you realize, this way of simplifying your thinking, you can do the following. So we have now, I should and now you get to think, okay, now let's go into the future a little bit. Now here's me at 225. What does 225 John do? He eats the right amount. He gets some exercise. And he eats mostly real whole foods. Now, everybody's path to their goal weight is going to look different. There's a lot of different strategies that people can use to get through 100 or 200 pound weight loss or 50 or whatever. And there's different strategies that are going to be appropriate for different parts of this journey. But if you were to look at things at their fundamental reality, we get something like this. Here are the behaviors that led to this. And here are the behaviors that lead to this. Super simple. You could say, John, this is overly simplistic to the point that it's not even helpful. And I would say, go back and watch the replay of this whole thing and then tell me that, okay? Now we're basing a sense of what's possible in the future, not off of delusion, but off of reality, right? We're starting to extrapolate, okay, if reality is this, and my goal is over there, based in reality, what line can I draw that actually goes from here to there? And now we don't live in delusion. We get to have a realistic picture of moving forward. Now, let me throw another couple quick mental things at you. Just as a bonus, right? Let's say you have 200 pounds to lose, okay? First of all, is this an accurate picture? Do most of us think about losing 200 pounds as a downward stroll? No, we think of it as an uphill climb. Because that's how we interpret the difficulty. But now, how do we make it downhill? Because ultimately, the difficulty level, like a video game, you get to select it, okay? Oh, thank you. Okay. And the way to go this way with weight loss is to say, I need to lose 200 pounds. That's an enormous task. But the way to go downhill, well, let me ask you this. Let's say I gave you the first 100 pounds, right? Let's say I get you from here to here. I give you a plan, an eating regimen, I coach you all the way there, and we get 100 pounds off. Do you think then, would you be confident that you can get the other 100 off? Yeah, at least more confident. Okay, so you're more willing to entertain the idea that you can lose 100 pounds. What if I got you halfway there? What if magically we could wave our magic wand and get you 50 pounds closer? Do you think you could lose 50 pounds? Well, compared to this, yeah, I mean, definitely more confident. Okay, what about 25? Could you lose 25 pounds? And now you're starting to think, hey man, like if I played my cards right, in like 6 weeks I could be there. Like that's more, okay. And you bring, what you're doing, you're not just bringing things in the sense of like, most people can't even imagine what it's like to lose 200 pounds. So they can't get their head around it. And because they can't get their brain around it, they're not even willing to entertain the future possibility of it happening. This is a topic for another live chat. But how can you get your head around losing 200 pounds? It's like being pregnant for the first time and not being able to get your head around actually pushing a human being out of you. Now, if most women who were pregnant had the option of like, you know, at 8.5 months, eating a bag of Doritos and then just all of a sudden not being pregnant anymore, right? All of a sudden birth rates would plummet. But no, women, they don't have a choice of passing through that veil of experience, going from very pregnant to now there's a baby, okay? But if you have 200 pounds to lose, you can let that intimidate you so much that you just go, no, it's easier if we don't. It's just easier if we don't. So, because no one can force you through this veil, here's how you force yourself, okay? You start cutting it in half until you find a quantity that starts to feel a little bit more within the realm of possibility, right? And then you start cutting that in half. 12, 5. And what you inevitably get down to is 1 pound. If I said to you, smog hazy, I'll give you $1 million if you can lose 1 pound. If I walk up to any person who weighs 600 pounds and I say, you who are bedridden, you probably can't even walk out your door, right? People, like we've seen people on those TV shows where like they can't even get themselves off the couch or out of the bed. If I told that person, if you lose 1 pound, I'll give you $1 million. Do you think that person could lose 1 pound, even if they were completely immobile? Yes. Why? Because even that person who weighs 700 pounds knows enough about their body intuitively to know how to get 1 pound off. And actually, the more you weigh, the more confident you would be that you could lose 1 pound. Why? Because the heavier you are, the more your weight fluctuates throughout the week anyways. So if every single one of us on this chat was 100% confident that we could lose 1 pound, how come people fail at weight loss? Because To lose 200 pounds, guess what? Did I get to lose it at any point 10, 20, 30 pounds at a time? No. I had to lose it 1/10 at a time, 2/10, 3/10. I never even got to lose it a full pound at a time. But if you just go 1 pound, listen, any amount of weight loss is made up with that 1 pound. It's just over and over and over again. Think of things you've done 200 times. You might have checked your phone 200 times today. Right? You might have watched 200 TikTok videos today. Think of the amount of things you've done 200 times over the course of a year or 2 years. It's not that crazy when you think of it that way, right? Joker laugh. Oof. I wish I had all day. I have therapy at 4, so I can't sit here and. So, most people think there's no way I could be consistent, right? Like Joker laugh said, there's no way I could be consistent that long. So the solution, like I can't be consistent over 2 years. So Joker just said, he just said it, man, right? Every single one of us has felt this or feels it right now. There's no way I could be consistent for 2 years. That is our belief. And I absolutely believed it, and I still believe it about stuff, right? It's normal. No one is like a bad person for thinking this. However, let me point out a couple things. Joker, I want you to answer this if you can. Do you think that I could get someone from 220 pounds to 420 pounds without creating consistency? Does anyone think that going from, when you were 22 and you were healthier than you are now, that getting from there to where you are now wasn't the result of consistency? You are living proof that you can be consistent at punishing yourself, making yourself sicker and sicker and sicker, and dividing yourself, like I talked about before, living more and more in delusion, not able to look in the mirror, not able to look at the scale, not able to go to the high school reunion, not able to wear that dress, not able to do all the things you like to do. In those contexts, you were amazingly consistent. So what do I have to say to this idea that you can't consistently improve your life and be good to yourself? It's fucking horseshit. And I don't say that out of a sense of anger at anyone, because I'm talking to myself, man. It's horseshit. You know you can be consistent for 2 years because you couldn't have gotten where you are if that long-term consistency wasn't not only possible, but actually a key feature of what it is to be human. You're just basing your consistency off of self-hatred. Why? Because no one has taught you how to base consistency off of self-love. We get this type of consistency when no one loves me. I have to be perfect. I'm not safe. These fears create consistency. Delusions create consistency. I should weigh less leads us down a pathway of deluded thinking that will create consistently disordered behavior. So, what if we changed this belief to I am completely loved. I am safe. I am whole right now. All of a sudden, if this is your operating system, does it sound so crazy to think that you could go for a walk most days? I will leave it on that note. I will run through some questions because I promised I would. High intensity training or running for cardio so I don't lose gains. Virgo Mojo, you have basically said this is the equivalent of should I chop off my finger with a machete or a meat cleaver to make sure I don't chop off my finger? You've described two of the most common ways that people do lose their gains. Now, it totally depends on your genetics, whether you're a hard gainer or easy gainer, right? Like someone like me, I can get away with a lot more cardio. I can get away with more intense forms of cardio and still maintain muscle. But if you're talking like real gains, like you've worked hard in the gym for a year, 2, 3 years to really build up your physique, I wouldn't recommend running or high intensity training. Running puts a lot of eccentric load on your leg muscles, which is going to change your body's adaptation mechanisms. It's not going to want to hold all that muscle because those eccentric, when your feet impact the ground, that puts a lot of eccentric load on your legs, and you can do that 50,000 times, right? In a run, maybe not that many, but over the course of a week, you could. And your body interprets that, right? Volume times your weight equals the total load, and your body's going to be like, whoa. Like, I'm not going to help you squat 400 pounds if this is what you're going to do every day. So lower intensity forms of cardio tend to be best. High intensity training can be okay, but a lot of the stuff that came out like in 2006 to 2010 about how high intensity training would burn fat and preserve muscle mass, that's not so favored anymore. So, walking, biking, incline treadmill, right? Swimming even. These are forms of cardio that are more likely to allow you to burn a lot of calories while not sacrificing muscle mass most of the time. What's the best type of workouts to do to lose weight? Well, first off, you want to pick the stuff that you like so that you'll do it consistently. Or you want to pick with something that you might be able to like if you sort of grew to love it. So like for me, I've always been partial to the exercise bike and lifting weights. That's a great combination. Doesn't get a whole lot better than that, in my opinion. But yeah, I'd say for the most part, do whatever is easy for you. Also, I would say it really depends on where you're at. If you're 400 pounds and you're just trying to get the process started, literally move your body in any way you can, okay? Don't overthink the workouts, okay? But if you're 18% body fat and you're trying to get down to 10% body fat, I mean, we're talking a whole different, it's going to be more complex the closer you are to your goal weight, okay? But I think always some kind of combination of progressive resistance exercise and light to moderate cardio is probably going to hit a lot of bases for most people. But yeah. Have I read or listened to any of David Goggins? Not the biggest David Goggins fan in the world. But that's I know he helps a lot of people. But yeah, not a big David Goggins guy. I exposed myself to a lot of his stuff beginning in 2011. I've known about David Goggins probably a lot longer than most people. So he's an interesting dude. And he'll tell you straight up that what he's talking about isn't, for a lot of people. And I think that he's a classic example of the kind of person a lot of people project themselves onto as a way to derive motivation. But I think ultimately it's detrimental. And I think he tries to tell people that, but they don't listen. What if you eat healthy, work out, and aren't losing weight? You're probably not in a calorie deficit. You can eat healthy and still be eating more than the energy you're expending. And that's probably your fundamental issue. If you're a chronic dieter, especially a chronic yo-yo dieter, you might have created sort of painted yourself into a metabolic corner. And I have videos on how to deal with that. Would you suggest writing down reality versus goal? yeah, you can fixate on what is real today. You don't have to even have a goal, because the best way to get to your goals is to realize that you are equipped already with a whole range of talents, gifts, and things that you're not interacting with on a day-to-day basis because you're living off in la la land. Guess where your gifts are? Guess where all your strengths are? They're right here, right now. Okay? I cannot give you guys the best of what I have to offer unless I'm here in this moment with you. Okay? So when it comes to showing up at work and being your best self, right? You do that better when you're not somewhere else, either in time or, daydreaming. Presence doesn't just put you into contact with what's around you, it puts you into contact with what's in you. Stuff that you may not have seen in years, or you may not have ever realized was there. Strength, love, safety, right? This is part of how we come to find these things that have eluded us all our life, because we're always looking around at our context or our circumstances, and always trying to change our life from the circumstances inward. If I just make enough money, if I just have enough friends, if I just look a certain way, then I'll get all the love and safety that I need, right? And we know that is not how it works. So, did I answer that question? I believe I did. Okay. Why does one bad weekend erase weeks of progress? Well, it would only do that if during that weekend you ate enough calories to equal weeks of deficit, okay? A lot of times that isn't what happened. What happened is you gained a lot of water weight from taking in a bunch more carbs than you're used to, or a bunch more sodium, and yeah, probably gaining some fat for sure. And so we see our weight spike up and we go, oh, I shouldn't weigh this much. And the cycle that I've just described starts all over again. We say, oh, I have to weigh less than this. And this is this is the boom and bust, right? This is the boom that makes us go, oh, this is why I have to crash diet. I have to drop my calories drastically to get my weight back to where it should be right now. Because every second that I'm up here 3 pounds over where I want to be is like 1,000 knives in my skin. Okay. Any last questions? How do I balance weight loss and strength gain? This is something I'm dealing with right now. So when you're trying to lose weight, it's not an ideal environment for gaining muscle. And usually there's a fairly straightforward connection between gaining muscle and gaining strength. Obviously, strength can be gained through increasing sort of your neuromuscular connections. You can increase strength without ever increasing the amount of muscle on your body. But generally speaking, form follows function, right? So, protein, progressive resistance training, you need to be moving more weight or more reps over time, right? Not every single workout. Like today, I worked out, I did chest, I did shoulders, I did triceps. On one of my exercises, I didn't do better than I did last time. But that's okay, because what I'm trying to do is create a picture that looks like this overall. But day to day, you might have one workout that's worse than the one before. But overall, as long as you're generally trending upward with your total load volume, then you're going to build muscle most likely, especially if you're providing your body a gram of protein per pound of lean mass, or your goal weight. Now, if you are severely overweight, the ability to lose fat while gaining muscle actually kind of goes up. And you hear about a lot of people who lose weight and they maybe do it a little bit slower because they're gaining muscle, so the scale isn't going down as fast. But the people who are sort of disciplined and they're able to lose the weight a little bit slower, but while building muscle, they often feel a lot better when they do get to goal weight. They find that their goal weight is actually their goal weight. Whereas a lot of people, when they finally get to goal weight, they're like, why do I feel stringy and still like skinny fat? And it's like, well, you dieted off a bunch of your lean mass as well as your fat. Joker, you're welcome. But yeah, Go-Gurts, you can gain muscle in a caloric deficit. You can. I'm doing it right now. It's possible. Some people genetically have an easier time with it, but generally if you've struggled with being severely overweight or obese, genetically you might have an easier time with that sort of thing. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize, that people who tend toward becoming overfat through over-consuming calories, right? If you're genetically more on that end of the spectrum, you're most likely also on that end of the spectrum of people who have an easier time gaining lean mass and keeping it. So that's kind of finally there's a silver lining. Is there a way to know if I'm not eating enough? Honestly, maybe this will happen down the road, but that's one way I tell if I'm too deep into a diet is if I can't progress with my lifts week to week, or over time. But generally you need to know. That's a tricky one. That would take me a lot longer to answer, because there's a lot of different ways. I know a lot more intuitive ways of telling if you're eating too much. But if you're not eating enough, if the scale's going down more than like 1% per week, then you want to kind of definitely take a second look at things. If you're very, very overweight, like you have 100 pounds to lose or more, and you're losing 1.2 pounds per week, that's fine. But if you start hitting like 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, or 2% per week, that's when you want to kind of pump the brakes and take a look at things and make sure you're eating enough. Okay, folks. So, to recap, go away, Q&A. There we go. Sleep is hugely important. If you want to lose fat or gain muscle or just live into your old age, you got to sleep. Sleep is huge. And I say that as someone who struggled more with sleep than you could imagine. So you can join my weekly weight loss course at patreon.com/John Oakes Coaching. That's Oakes with an E, John with an H. I'm going to have a lot more stuff coming to Patreon. And honestly, the people in the Patreon will get to kind of tell me what it is they want. I can make workout videos for you guys. I can show you how I cook my meals. I will, if people go to the Patreon and they're willing to just like say, hey man, I support you. Like, could you also do this for me? I'll be like, yeah, I'll find time to do that. Okay. If you want to inquire about one-to-one coaching, you can email me at johnoakescoaching, same right here, @gmail.com. You're welcome, Crazy Mom. You can watch the replay of this live chat at the Facebook group, which link in bio, or on my YouTube channel, link in bio. Did I plug everything? Is the Patreon timed live? It will be. The class, I want it to be live and I want it to be interactive so that I can like lecture for a little bit on like a theme kind of progressing from week to week, but then also open it up for questions to make sure everybody has whatever they need for the next week. Kind of focusing on the very next step, right? Keeping it very practical. And then, the next week, if people have new questions, great. So I hope to see you guys on the Patreon. This is probably my favorite live chat ever. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. This gets so much easier when you guys are asking great questions and like kind of, it's like going to church and like people are in the audience like, amen, brother. Like it kind of helps when you gives you a little encouragement. Lets you know that you're connecting with people in the way you want to. So Joker, what's up? Thank you everyone so much. I look forward to seeing you in the Patreon. The Facebook is tough, man. The Facebook group, it blew up overnight, and honestly, like I put up posts of like really important stuff, and like maybe a quarter of the people even see it. Facebook just stinks. When can we see this on YouTube? I usually upload them within 24 to 48 hours. Yeah, I'll make a point of getting this one up. I'm a couple behind, so I need to do that. All right. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you guys soon. You can email me at johnoakescoaching@gmail.com. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/johnoakescoaching for the weekly weight loss course. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Smog Hazy. I will. All right. Take it easy.